Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you everything that I made in October and November. So usually I do a video each month of everything that I made, but I didn't get a ton done in November because it was a crazy month. I'll tell you more about it as we get into it. I decided to combine the two videos together and just put everything that I made in the 2 months into one video. So I will go ahead and do October 1st, and then I will get into November. So for October, my goal was to make 40 plushies, and I actually did make a lot more than 40. So I'll go ahead and get into what I made in October. So the first thing that I crocheted in October was a little hippo, and this was inspired by Moo Dang the hippo. And if you have not heard of her, she is a viral little baby hippo and she is so cute and I am obsessed with her, so I wanted to crochet her. So I just used a hippo pattern that I had on Ribbler, and I just did color changes to add the pink cheeks to it, and I really like how this one turned out. I did put it out at a market, but I'm kind of thinking of keeping it because it's so cute. I kind of want to just keep it on my shelf. But we'll see. I don't know. The second thing that I made was a little cow. So this was a pattern test that I did a few months back, and I decided to make another cow because the first one sold pretty quickly, and I do get a lot of requests for cows when I'm at markets. So I did make this one. I haven't sold it yet, but I didn't have the colors with me to do brown for the horns, and I think that's why. I think if the horns were brown it would look a little bit better, but it's okay. The third thing I made was a little triceratops, and I just used this yarn. It's kind of like a bluish gray yarn, and it's a burnout blanket. And then I made 4 mini ghosts. I actually only took pictures of 2 of them. The other 2 were a custom order, and I forgot to take pictures of those ones. Next, I made 3 corn, and this is one of my patterns. It is a really good seller for me, and it also draws a lot of people into my booth at markets. A lot of people talk about them, and they're like, oh my gosh, did you see that? So I had to restock some of those because I had sold out of those. So I did 2 with a variegated green husk and then 1 with just the classic green husk. Then I made another mini ghost. Next I made 2 candy corn guys. Then I made another triceratops, and this is a variegated yarn and it's a burnout blanket yarn. This color I can usually only find at Walmart, so if you're looking for that, I usually can't find it at Joann's or Michael's, but I get it at Walmart. And then next, while I had that yarn out, I decided to use it to make a dinosaur. So this, I believe, is a Stegosaurus, and this was another pattern test that I did a few months back, and it was for Zero Gravity Crochet. And I sold those dinosaurs that I did for the pattern test pretty quickly, so I wanted to make a few more of those. So I made this one first, and I embroidered the eyes on this one. Next, I made an axolotl, and this is a blue one. I like to make all different colors of axolotls, and I've kind of been trying to use up my scrap yarn and some of my older yarn that has been sitting around. If you use burnout blanket yarn, you know that they're kind of changing the texture of the yarn, and the older yarn is like thicker and harder to work with. So I have some of that yarn still left over, and I've been trying to slowly use it up. I don't like using it for a full project because it really hurts my wrists when I'm working with it for a long time. So I decided to use it on little parts. So on this one, the gills and the spine of the axolotl, I used that thicker yarn, and that's working well for me to use it in small amounts like that. It's not hurting my wrists, so I'm slowly but surely using up that old textured yarn. And then the next 2 things that I made were 2 more of those dinosaurs from Zero Gravity Crochet. And so I did a Stegosaurus that was with a variegated orange color. And I had originally got that color for pumpkins, but I made quite a few pumpkins already, and so I thought it would be cute to make a dinosaur with it. And I embroidered the eyes on that one as well. I actually meant to put eyes in it, but I forgot and I stuffed it up before I put the eyes in, and I was just like, oh well, I'll just embroider the eyes. And then the next one that I made was the Triceratops version. So it is a pattern pack. They are in the same pack together. And so the Triceratops I did with a blue variegated yarn, and I did put some colored safety eyes in this one. And then the next two things that I made were Beetlejuice inspired bees. So I saw someone on Instagram make one and I really wanted to make some. So I just used my favorite bee pattern and just changed the colors to Beetlejuice colors. And then for the eyes, to get the purple around them, I actually just used a Sharpie and I just colored on the yarn, and it worked out really well. Next, I made one of my leggy chickies, and this is my pattern. I like to usually have two of these at a market. I like to have one white one and one yellow one at each market. So I went ahead and made this white one. Sometimes I use yellow for the legs and the beak, and sometimes I use orange. So this time I used yellow. Next, I made a mini alligator. And I believe this was my first time trying this pattern. It was a free pattern that I found on Instagram, and I really like it. I do have another fairly small alligator pattern that I use, but this one is smaller than that, so I was able to make this cheaper than my other one, and it was pretty quick to work up. I did embroider the eyes on this one, and this one did sell at the first market that I had it at. The next thing I made was a little spider. If you saw everything that I made last month, then you know that I made some of these. And so this is a black one, and I decided to use black safety eyes and then just use some white acrylic yarn to embroider around the edges of the eyes to just make the eyes pop a little bit more, because I was afraid with black yarn and black safety eyes that you might not really be able to see the eyes. So I think it worked really well to add the white around the eyes. The next thing that I made was a spider web, and I actually just freehanded this one. So at my first, I think 1 or 2 fall markets, I just had my spiders sitting on the table and people didn't really know what they were, and a couple people were saying they thought it was an octopus. So I wanted to make it clear that they were spiders, so I freehanded this spider web, and then at my next markets I put that down and put the spiders on top of it, and it really helped. I sold a lot more spiders after that, and everybody definitely knew that they were spiders. I did have a couple people ask if they could buy the spider web, but I said no because I just had the one. So next year I might even make some more spider webs to have as an option if somebody wants to buy it to go with their spider. And then the next thing that I made was a pattern test that I did on Ribbler. I don't remember off the top of my head who it was by, but I will have all of these patterns linked in the description in the order that I talk about them. So if you want to find it, it'll be there. So this pattern is a spider garland. And so it's got like the spider webs and then one little spider on it. I kind of wish that I would have made it white instead of black, but I didn't have much white yarn, so I went ahead and made it black, and the webs don't show up quite as well as I wanted them to, so I think if I make it again, I'll probably use white. So the next thing that I made in October technically wasn't crochet, but I decided to add it in here anyways. So it was a pumpkin that I painted. So me and one of my friends went to this pumpkin painting party, and so pretty much we got to paint whatever we wanted on a pumpkin, and I decided to paint Moodang the hippo. As you heard in the beginning of the video, I was kind of obsessed with her, so I thought it would be fun to paint her on a pumpkin. So I don't think it looks exactly like her, but I think it looks pretty cute. The next thing that I made is a beanie, and I used my knitting machine for this. So I like to use my knitting machine to make beanies, but this is a different kind of beanie. So I was actually watching a live video on TikTok, and I will link who it was below because there's not a written pattern for it, but she was showing us on live how she was making it. And I love watching her TikTok lives. She's always using the knitting machine. And anyways, so this one, rather than just continually cranking the knitting machine to make it, you have to stop, and like every 2 stitches you take the yarn out and you wrap it around 2 pegs, and then you wrap it around the next 2 and the next 2 and so on. So it took a lot longer to make than a normal hat would take on the knitting machine. So I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to price this at, but I think it's kind of cool because it like shows the pop of color behind it. So I kind of wanted it to be like a Halloween hat, so I put orange behind and black on the outside, so you kind of see the pop of orange through the black. So I think it's pretty cool. I don't think I'm going to be making any more anytime soon, just because it takes more time to make than a regular beanie, but I do like how it turned out. The next thing that I made was a custom order for my boyfriend's coworker, and this was one of the jack-o'-lanterns. If you have seen my videos, you know I love making these jack-o'-lanterns, and they requested a pink one. I only had like this shade of pink or like a crimson, so I went ahead and used this pastel pink, and this is the Big Twist plush yarn from Joanne, and I used that, and then the black is just burlap blanket. And I do like how this one came out, so next year I might make some different colored pumpkins, because before this I had just made orange ones, but I think it does look cute in purple, and it might look cute in other colors as well. The next thing I made was a popping mushroom, and this was a pink one. Then I did another pattern test. So I did a few pattern tests this month, and this one is for a little pumpkin guy, and I think it is adorable. I love how it turned out. He's so cute. I actually did not put him out at my markets because I kept saying, oh, I'll put him out at the next one, but like secretly I just want to keep him. So I think I might keep him at least until next year, maybe. We'll see if I want to part with him next year, but for now I'm going to keep him. This pattern was pretty easy to make, although it took some sewing. I wasn't expecting it to take quite as much sewing as it did, so it's not a super quick pattern for me to make, and I don't love sewing, so it might not be like a go-to pattern for me, but I do think it is super cute, and it's one that I might make again, just depending on whether I want to do the sewing or not. It's super cute, and I think that they probably would sell well at markets. Then I made 2 more popping mushrooms. So I made one that is a pink color, and the other one is a variegated orange. Then I made another mini ghost. Next I made another little spider, and this was a gray one. Then I made 2 more popping mushrooms. So the popping mushrooms were a good seller for me, so I had to restock on them. That's why I made so many this month. I made one with a red, and then the next one is a variegated pastel rainbow, and this yarn is from Big Twist from Joanne. Then I got out my smaller knitting machine. So last year I bought a smaller 22 peg knitting machine, and I had not got it out like I planned to last year, so I finally got it out of the box and started using it in October. So the first thing that I made was a headband, and this is a tan headband. I really like how it turned out. I think it looks super perfect. Like the stitches look so good. I love how it turned out. So after that I wanted to make a little cup koozie. So I made one. I think it's a little too big. Next time I will do a few less stitches, but I kind of wanted it to match the headband. I thought that would be cute, so I do like how it turned out. Then I made 3 beanies on my knitting machine. So the first one I made is a off-white one, then I made a tan one, and then the third one that I made has multiple colors in it. This was actually a red heart yarn. It's the one that you're supposed to make the perfect granny squares with, but I didn't really want to make the granny squares with it, so I decided to try it out on the knitting machine. My knitting machine did not love this yarn, so some of the stitches are like not dropped, but like the stitches are not perfect on this one, so I would not recommend using that yarn in the knitting machine, so I won't use it again. but I do kind of like how it turned out. I just wish that the stitches were perfect. But anyways, the next thing I made was a scrunchie, and I made this one on my smaller knitting machine, and I used some velvet yarn for this. I have quite a bit of velvet yarn left over from last year that I haven't used, and so I wanted to use some of that up. The next thing I made was a pink axolotl, and this is like the classic color, light pink with the darker pink for the gills and spine. Then I made 2 more knit beanies on the knitting machine. So I made a red one and a white one. So for these 2, I actually used yarn from the dollar store. So this is the yarn that I used. It's the Premier yarn, and I really like how this worked in my knitting machine. It's pretty soft and it worked pretty well. So I would recommend this yarn. If you want to get it, you can see they might still have it at the Dollar Tree. If not, I do have an affiliate link, so if you want to order it, you can use my affiliate link. It'll be in the description. But this is like the hugest skein of yarn ever, and I literally made a beanie out of this, and you cannot tell. It looks like none of the yarn is missing, but I promise that beanie was made from this skein of yarn. So there's a lot of yarn there. Next, I made a sitting dino. So this one I used that bluish gray yarn, and then I think it was either a white or a light blue for the spikes on it. Then I made another axolotl. So this is the color that I use the most for axolotls, but I decided to use blue for the gills and spine, where I usually use pink, and I really like how it turned out with the blue, so I might be doing this again if I have more of that blue color. Then I made 2 more of the spiders, and I embroidered the white yarn around the eyes, and I really like how they turned out. Then I made 2 more headbands on my knitting machine, so one of them is orange and the other one is blue. Then I made 2 more scrunchies on my small knitting machine. So one is burnout velvet, and the other one, I can't remember what the yarn is called, but my knitting machine did not like it at all. I barely got this to work, so I'm definitely not going to use that yarn in the knitting machine. I'm just going to use that one for crocheting. Then I made a pickle in the classic green color. Next, I made 4 more axolotls. So the first one is a blue one, and then the other 3 are different kinds of pink ones. So, like I said, I like to do all different colors. So I kind of just mix and match some different pink colors that I have and some light, like rainbow colors that I have. Next, I made a puppy. So this was when I was preparing for my market at the animal shelter, which if you haven't seen that video, I will link that one so you can watch it next. So I made this puppy, and then this one was a YouTube tutorial that I followed. Then I made 3 loaf cats. So the first one is a variegated gray and white, and that one is a smaller one. The second one is the same size as that one, and it was just a solid tan. And then the third loaf cat that I made is a bigger one. So this is the size that the pattern actually makes. The other 2, I altered the pattern to make smaller. So the big one is with a tan variegated yarn, and this one was my favorite. I really like how this one turned out. Then I made another mini octo, and this one I embroidered the eyes on. I don't love how it turned out, but maybe someone will like it. Then I made 2 mini chicks, and then I made 1 more popping mushroom, and this was the big twist yarn. And then the last 2 things that I made in the month of October were my Halloween costume. So I went as a clown for Halloween. So I made the clown collar, and I made the clown hat, and both of these were in a YouTube tutorial that I watched. I think that I did alter the collar just a little bit, but I pretty much followed the pattern most of the way. So that is everything that I made in October. So now I'm going to get into what I made in November. So November was a really weird month. I was on vacation for the beginning of the month, and then Once I got back from vacation, I wasn't feeling great, and once I started actually feeling good again after that, then I got a cold, so I was sick for another week after that. So I did not have a lot of time to crochet in November. It was just a really weird month, and one of my cats actually passed away while I was on vacation, so it was a crazy month, and so I didn't get as much done as I wanted. So my goal for November was 25 items because I knew that I was going to be on vacation, but I actually did get 24 items done. Oh, and I forgot to mention the total for October. So my goal was 40 and I ended up getting 68 things done in October. So that was good. Okay, so the first two things that I made in November were 2 corn. So I did one with the classic green yarn and one with the variegated green. Then I made another one of the mini alligators. Since that first one sold, I decided to make another one to have at my next market. Then my new item that I decided to make for the winter was penguins. So I got super obsessed with this penguin pattern and I made a whole lot of them. So the first two that I made were blue ones. Then I made a gray one, and I did use colored eyes in these ones, mostly just because my 12mm eyes didn't fit very good, and those are the ones that I use for most of my plushies. So I did have to use these other ones, but I do think they look really good with the colors. I tried to use a lot of different colors in each of them so that they were all a little bit different. So next I made another blue one, but it is a little bit different. It has a variegated blue yarn. Then I made another gray one, and then I made 2 pink ones. So one has the variegated light rainbow with it, and then the other one is just pink. Then I made a purple one, and I really like the purple one. The purple ones are one of my favorites that I made. Then I made another corn, and this one is just the classic green husk. Next I made another triceratops, and this one is a variegated green yarn. The next thing that I made was an elephant. So I think I've made this pattern either once or twice before. I think just once before this. I actually think it might have been a pattern test that I did, but the pattern is on Ribbler. And so the first one I actually sold online, and so I decided to make another one. And I like how this one came out. It's kind of that bluish gray yarn. Next I made a turtle. I think this is called Tank the Turtle. And I hadn't made these ones since January. Actually, I've been meaning to make them. I've had them on my list to make, but I just haven't done it. So I finally got around to making one, and so I just used 2 different colors of blue for this one. Then I made a few more penguins. So I made another purple one, then I made another pink one, and then the third one that I made is with some different yarn. I actually don't know what kind of yarn this is. So one of my friends from my crochet group went to one of those bin stores where they have like all these things, I think like from Amazon or something, I'm not really sure, but they pretty much have like all these like returned items and they put them in the bins for super cheap. And she found this yarn and she was like, this looks like yarn that you would use. So she bought it for me. And so I don't know what kind of yarn it is. It came in these bags, but it doesn't have like a name of the yarn. So I'm not really sure. It definitely feels like a blanket yarn. And it is, I think, not really thicker than Bernat Blanket, but a little bit rougher to work with, kind of like their old texture. So So anyways, she got me multiple colors of those and I wanted to try them out. So I used 2 of those colors. I used pink and the purple to make a penguin. And I don't love the yarn, but I also don't hate it. It's not my favorite, but it's not bad. So I am probably going to keep the rest of the yarn and use it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to use it for, but we will see. And then I made another Triceratops, and this is a blue one. Next, I made an octo, and I used this variegated yarn that I usually use for my axolotls. I decided to make an octo with it. Next, I made 2 mini octos. So the first one I used that orange variegated yarn, and then the second one I used the pink posh yarn, and the pink posh ones usually sell really good for me, so I like to have one of those at each of my markets. They definitely are smaller than the ones that I make with the blanket yarn, but I do sell them for the same price and they do sell pretty well. And then the last thing that I crocheted was one more penguin, and it was just a classic gray one. And so that was the last thing I crocheted, but I did also make some cookies. So I like to bake and decorate cookies, not really as like part of the business, but just kind of as a hobby. I like to do it for the holidays mostly. So for Thanksgiving, I decided to make some cookies. And so I made, I will put up pictures of them. So I made some fall leaves. I made some pumpkin pies. I made, a blueberry pie, and then I wanted to make some turkeys, but I didn't have a turkey cookie cutter, which is kind of crazy because I have a lot of cookie cutters. I actually bought a kit that has like 100 cookie cutters of different animals, and so I was searching through that trying to find a turkey, and I could not find one. So I found a bird, a chicken, and what I think looks like a roadrunner. So I kind of just decided to make some of all of them, and I think they turned out pretty cute. So the turkeys are my favorite of all the cookies that I made. And that was all that I made in the month of November. So I didn't get a lot done, but like I said, that month was really weird for me, so I am perfectly fine with how much I got done. And then into December, I am hoping to make 40 items. That is my goal. I'm thinking maybe I will make a few more, but I'm really not sure because I've got a lot of Christmas shopping to do, and with the holidays and everything, you know, Christmas parties and getting together with family, and I definitely want to make some cookies for Christmas as well. So depending on how busy I am, we will see how much I will get made in December. So that is pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you watched this far, please comment a heart in the comments so I know who watched all the way to the end. If you are not subscribed, please do that so you will see my next videos. I have quite a few videos coming out soon. I've got Christmas market vlog videos coming out. And let me know in the comments which item I made in these months was your favorite. I am not sure what my favorite is in these months. There were a lot of items that I really liked, so I want to hear what your favorites were. Thanks for watching.